In the music business, it's the business that keeps the music alive. Today, we're happy to have with us someone who's actually in the music business, Al Lazard. Welcome to the show, Al.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So I'm excited to talk to you today and hear all about jazz, a genre that I really know very little about.
Jazz.
So if you could tell us how you got started in jazz.
Well, I started playing music about 9 years old. My mom gave me a saxophone. I wanted to be a drummer, but she gave me a saxophone, and I started
Moms
playing.
are that way.
Man, she intercede big time.
Yes.
and so she loved the saxophone. Mm-hmm. That's why she got the saxophone.
Okay.
So I guess she knew I was going to bang on everything, so she gave me a saxophone. I started at 9. I started playing in New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, born and raised in New Orleans. My dad's a musician. My mom's a singer. My grandmother's a singer. My uncle's a singer. My brother's a singer. My sister's a singer. Everybody in my family was playing music.
And was that all jazz or different kinds?
My grandmother was a lounge singer. So she sang at different lounges and weddings and at funerals and stuff. My mom did the same thing. My dad played bass drum. He was a grand marshal in New Orleans. There's things for parades. He did a lot of that. He also played clarinet. And so, yes, I started 9. At 14 years old, I was already playing in clubs and nightclubs in New Orleans. Yes, there was a club in New Orleans called Mason's, and I had to play, and then when we got finished playing, go sit outside because I wasn't old enough to stay inside the clubs. Mostly jazz.
Okay.
Mostly jazz. Mostly stuff that we play. We played by ear. We didn't play. I started playing jazz when I was about let's say 17.
Okay.
17, I started playing jazz. Actually, I didn't like jazz. I was mostly R&B and funk music. And then I started playing jazz about 17 years old.
So to you, what's one of the differences between R&B and funk and jazz? How would you describe them?
Jazz is more improvisational.
Okay.
It's a lot more. R&B is more written, standard, played the way it is. Funk is funkier. It's got a more of a funkier beat to it, but there's not a lot of improvisation to it.
Okay.
Jazz is 90% improvisational, and as you play the head of the music, and then you just improv, and you can't improv is not written. It's all from the soul. It's all from the heart, and that's what I started loving about jazz. When I went to college, I played with the teacher was Kid Jordan, and he was a saxophone player, and I just loved the way he played, and I just said, okay, I'm gonna start playing the saxophone even more, even though I still wanted to play drums. Yeah. But I had to play the sax, I didn't have drums, so I started playing the sax even more, and I love jazz. Jazz in New Orleans, there's several different types of jazz. There's straight ahead, which is Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and then there's brass band jazz. And then there's Dixieland. I play all of them.
So Dixieland. Tell me what Dixieland jazz is. Dixieland
is like it's kind of like brass, but more of a straight ahead feel to it. It's improvisational to it, but it's using a clarinet, maybe using a banjo, and it's more of a a little bit kind of like how would I put it? Just more straight ahead street music. In a sense, straight ahead, straight, written down music, where jazz itself, straight ahead jazz, is the head, and then you just improv.
And what do you mean by the head?
The way the song goes. You play like the melody of the song, and then after that, you just improv. And then you go back to the melody and you close the song out. And then in brass music, you may not even play the melody. You just play to a beat, So
it takes a good musician to improv like that.
Yeah, it's in the soul. It's in your soul, it's in your bones, it's in your blood. The way you hear the music, the way you feel it. Improvisation, or you can't teach improv. I mean, a lot of people want to take jazz lessons. You can learn how to play the instrument. You can learn how to play the melody, but I can't teach you how to improv. Right. I can't teach you how to play what you feel. You have to play whatever you feel.
It helps growing up listening to it, so you get more of a feel for how it's supposed to be.
It helped a lot when I was around a lot of musicians. I was around music all the time. The neighbors played music. Everybody in my neighborhood, New Orleans, played music. So I got to see the Olympic Brass Band. I got to see the Treme Brass Band. I got to hear all that. I got to hear my grandmother sing. I got to hear, you know, my uncles and them sing. So music for me was just a big thing in my family. It was huge. And if you didn't play an instrument in my family, they thought something was wrong with you.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is in my family, too.
Yeah,
if you don't play an instrument in our family.
Yeah, something's wrong. You can play a great athlete, but if you don't play an instrument, you
got to sing or do something.
Yeah, you got to do something.
I agree.
Do something.
I agree. So you grew up in New Orleans, and in a very musical family and playing all kind of instruments. How did you get out to California? I
moved to California not to play music, actually. I came to California because I was trying to get away from music. I had been playing so long. I moved here when I was 25. So I've been playing so long, and I got to see different sides of the music that I didn't want to be a part of. The drugs, when I was back home, drugs were starting to become big, and crack was starting to become big, and a lot of musicians was doing crack and stuff. So I either was going to play music and become a crack addict or stop playing music and move away. So what I did was I actually moved away and put my horn down for 10 years.
Wow.
I stopped playing for 10 years because I said, well, let me just stop. California, I didn't know much. And somehow, the way I got back into it was I was at a church, and someone found out. I never told anyone I played music. And someone said, hey, I heard you play saxophone. I went, yeah, I play a little bit. I haven't played in a while. They said, we're having a talent show. Would you like to play? I went, I haven't played in 10 years. Probably pretty bad. I didn't even have a horn at the time. And so they gave me, let me borrow an alto saxophone to practice. And I practiced, and I kind of played the talent show, and I sucked. I mean, I was bad. I knew I was bad. I was really bad. But I made a vow. I said, I am never putting my horn down again. Ever again, ever again. From that day on, I started practicing. Every day I would come home from my job, and I would practice. I would wake up on Saturday mornings and practice all day, and then I started getting back into it in the Bay Area. No one even knew that I was even playing this. I even played saxophone, or even toured. I toured with Ivan Neville. I toured with a couple of bands in New Orleans at 14, 15 years old. So no one even knew that I was a musician here.
Yeah, I saw the list on on your Facebook and other things of some of the musicians you've played with. It's a very impressive list.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know that. And at the time I was married, my wife didn't even know that I even played with all these people, because I never even talked about it. I just kind of pushed it under the table and let it go. And so when I started playing again, I actually played one gig and somebody heard me. And then somehow someone got it back to New Orleans that I'm playing again. And then someone called me from New Orleans to play a gig, and I went back to New Orleans, and I played a little bit in New Orleans, and I came back. I was like, okay, I'm back in it now, and I'm not doing any drugs.
Good.
So it was good. It was good.
Good. Yeah. So you're playing in multiple groups in the Bay Area, right? Right
now I'm playing in about 3 groups. I have my group. It's called Lazard and the World Street Players. And that's the one that's to my heart. The World Street Players are with Gary Zalabach. He's from San Francisco. Craig Kleiman is from San Francisco. I have 2 drummers. I have one drummer named Melvin Leonard. He's from New Orleans, and he plays with me, and another drummer named Scott Wow, and a keyboard player named John Watson. And that's the one that's to my heart. And we are a New Orleans straight ahead kind of a funk jazz band. So we play straight ahead, funk and New Orleans funk. That's the band that does a little bit of everything. We mix it all together. Because I love straight ahead music. I love straight ahead jazz. I love jazz. I love Miles. I love Coltrane. I love that. But I also love New Orleans. So, and even though jazz is New Orleans, I love that New Orleans feel to music also at the same time. I also play with a New Orleans brass band called MJ Brass Boppers.
Yeah, I've heard you play with them.
Yeah. And that's the only band that's only real New Orleans, authentic New Orleans brass band outside of New Orleans. And the reason why we say that, because 4 of the members are from New Orleans. And so you can feel that. I played in other brass bands and I didn't feel anything. But when the Boppers came together, we was like, okay, this is what it feels like to play a New Orleans brass band. And the funny thing was, I hated brass music when I left New Orleans. Because I had played it so much. I was like, I'm not going to play it again. But again, it's in my blood, it's in my system. My dad played brass music, and it was all over the place. So it was in the house, and we played it on Saturday mornings. That's what we played. We didn't watch cartoons. We played brass music. Yeah. We get out and we dance, and we did all that. And then the other band I'm playing with is called a blues band, Love Light Blues Band. And we are in transition of putting together the bass player and everything, the guitar player. And so, yeah, I'm pretty busy in playing music, you know, and it's good. It's good. And the Bay Area is good for that because the Bay Area is very diverse and the music seems very diverse, you know.
So are you playing mostly in San Francisco or mostly at Oakland? Or?
It depends. This weekend I'm in San Francisco with my band, Lazard and the World Street Players, at the Ocean AO House on Ocean Avenue. The brass band can go all the way from here to Oregon and play LA. We play all over the place. From Washington, we tour, we do everything, the brass band. And the blues band just played locally. But the brass band is the one that's taking me all over the place. And now we're working on a world tour, going to Europe and everything.
Really?
Yes.
The MJ's band?
MJ, yes,
wow.
yes.
Where
So,
in Europe are you going?
we're not sure.
They're
They're working on the details and working on us going back to New Orleans to play. Because it would be exciting from a band that is not in New Orleans to come back and play some New Orleans stuff. So we are working on that too. And then we also have a project in Oakland called the Oakland Second Line Project, which is really good for Oakland, for bringing New Orleans music culture to Oakland, to the Bay Area, actually.
So I think you have to explain what Second Line is, because you are in California.
Yeah. Well, you know, Second Line, we always say first line is the parade that they have in New Orleans. New Orleans have Mardi Gras. And we have the Mardi Gras, and then we have a second line, which is, it comes after the first parade. Second line is the street music. Second line is the people getting together. It's a culture of people getting together, having a good time, dancing, and just experimenting with each other, and just, it's a good thing. It's a community thing. It's kind of like, you know, like Congo Square, where the music play and everybody come together. That's what second line is. Second line can start anytime. There's no reason to have a second line. You don't have to have a reason, like a party. You can just say, hey, we're going to go march down the street, and people are going to come out of their house, and they're going to join you, and before you know it, you got a big party going on in New Orleans. So that's what second line is.
Yeah, you know, I haven't made it to New Orleans yet, so I've got to go. Everything I've heard about it has been good, but I've been to a lot of places. I've just never made it to New Orleans.
Okay.
My kids want to go too. We keep saying it might be more fun when they're 21.
Well, New Orleans, it might be fun with 21. I'm bringing my daughter down, who's in a couple of weeks, and she's always said the same thing. She says, Dad, is it going to be okay? It might be. New Orleans don't check IDs too much. Yeah. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. I think mine are also looking for the beignets.
Oh,
right?
yes, beignets and the hurricanes.
Yeah. The beignets sound good, and the music.
Yes.
So we've got enough time. I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more, explain a little bit more about the different kinds of jazz. Okay. I think that for a lot of us, you know, I come more from a classical and other background. Jazz is confusing to me. I mean, there are different kinds of jazz that I know I like and all, but I can't identify it. So for instance, straight line. Could you tell me again really what straight line is?
Well, straight ahead jazz. We call it straight ahead jazz. It's more of a and there's also fusion jazz too. But there's also the straight ahead jazz is what you know, Miles Davis, and you heard of Miles Davis, and you heard of Duke Ellington and Count Basie. All right. So that's what is straight ahead jazz. That's kind of, they play the melody and then they do a solo and then they go back to the melody and then they end the song. Mostly straight ahead. You know, if you listen to Miles Davis, he'll play all blues. He'll play the melody, all blues, and then he'll do a solo. Then they'll go back to the melody, and then they, end the song. And it can go either way. That can transition in the song, within the song itself. But that's usually what straight ahead is, and it's very, very, and it's very improvisational. So a lot of improvisational in there, and everything is the same.
So is it usually is it one soloist, or is it
No.
another one where each musician can have a turn?
Each musician get a solo.
Okay.
The instruments are talking to each other.
Okay.
So let's say they play the melody, and the saxophone player take a solo, and then when he gets to the end of his solo, he'll pass it on to the piano player. The piano player gets done with his solo, he'll pass it on to the guitar player, and they just keep passing on until they're done with everybody has soloed, the drums and everyone, and then they'll go back to the melody, and then they're in the song.
And so, how do they indicate that I'm done playing my solo now and I'm passing it along to you?
The instruments are talking. Again, it's I think I said, it's like ending a sentence. You have to put a period to it. So when let's say the saxophone player is playing and he knows he's coming to into his solo, he will play something that will signify a period.
Okay.
Just signify the period. It's like, I'm done. And then you'll pass it on.
Okay.
You know, and so the instrument will pick up either playing the exact same note where he left off at, or coming with something totally different.
Okay.
Yes. And that's straight ahead in brass, New Orleans second line, brass band music. Very similar, but the melody cannot be played at all. And everyone know the song in their head. They're just going to solo through everything.
Everything. So you're playing kind of a standard repertoire when it's
Brass.
yeah.
Yeah, we can do brass. They take brass and they turn into everything. They play pop music. They
Okay.
play R&B. They play Michael Jackson. They play everything, and it's just a New Orleans second line feel to it.
Okay.
A second line feel to it, and when they're done, again, they just like you hear it. You hear like they're playing. What's one of the songs we play? Can't think of the name of that song. Shake Your Body Down to the Ground by Michael Jackson.
Okay.
So they'll be playing Michael Jackson, but it has a second line feel to it.
Okay.
So it's totally different than just what it is. So, and you can hear the melody a little bit, but you'll know that it's second line music. You know the difference between second line brass music and straight ahead jazz. They're totally different, and they both have a lot of improvisation to it. Improvisation to it, but the second line is a feel. It's the drum, the rhythm.
The tiny bit that I've heard, it seems like there's more of a bounce to it.
It's a lot of bounce to it. New Orleans music is a lot of bounce. A lot of bounce. Second line is bounce. The different Dixieland can play the exact same song as a brass band play with no bounce.
Yeah.
No bounce. So that's what Dixieland is. It's no bounce. It's straight. You know, they'll play the exact same song, and it just be no bounce. Second line is a lot of bounce, a lot of dancing to it.
Yeah.
Dixieland, you may dance, but when you hear second line, you're gonna dance.
You got to dance.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no. I've seen people who say they don't dance and listen to second line. I've seen them.
Yeah,
moving.
you got to, yeah. Okay, so that makes me feel a little better that I can hear that little tiny difference in there. That, yeah, I just need to hear more of it, obviously. I need to come listen to you guys, and you need to tell me ahead of time, now this is this kind, and then, so I can understand it better. Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So what are some of your plans for the future?
Well, again, we plan on doing a tour with the brass band. We have some gigs that are lined up. Lazard and the World Street Players are playing at the Crawfish Festival in Woodland in September. We are like the
Woodland, California?
Yes, Woodland, California, and we are the closing band. So so we got a good spot there, and that's going to be really nice because it's bringing my band there, and we're going to tear it up. MJ has a lot of private gigs that we have, and then other than what we're doing, the tour, the New Orleans, the Oakland second line is going to be doing more stuff in Oakland, a lot more, and in San Francisco too, mostly Oakland. And the CD I'm working on. I've been working on it for a while, but I'm working on the CD.
No,
I just
I
got to
haven't
put it
heard
together.
about your CD
yes,
yet.
Yes. It's kind of quiet. I'm just putting the right pieces together because I want it to be more of a world, because I play with a lot of players from all over the world, so I'm bringing in different players from different places that I play with that can add to what I'm trying to do,
Good.
Yeah,
Good. I'm looking forward to hearing about that one. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So I can't wait to hear about where you're going on your world tour, because I can just imagine different countries and how surprised and pleased they're going to be to hear that kind of music.
It's exciting. It's exciting here in the Bay Area when people hear it for the first time.
Yeah.
They're not used to it.
I know. I
not.
mean, like I said, I came and heard you, and it was exciting. And what I enjoyed, it's, as you said, it's a community building thing. And as you all marched around, and people from the community saw and heard you and started following as well.
Yes.
I mean, that's fun to watch.
Yes, and in New Orleans it gets huge.
Yeah.
It's thousands of people, and they do it every Sunday.
Wow.
Every Sunday, and they have clubs that do it also. So they have different clubs that do it. So it's a big thing back home. And so we're trying to make, after Katrina, a lot of people came to Oakland. So Oakland has a lot of people from New Orleans here, a lot of folks from back home here. So we're trying to bring that community out too, let people know that we're here. We're in Oakland, and so come on out and join us, and come on have some crawfish with us, and come on break some bread with us, and let's have a good time like we did back home.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what we're trying to do with the one in Oakland, the Oakland Techno Project.
So what do you miss most about New Orleans?
Food.
Yeah.
Food. You know, I love going home, but I can't stay there. I love going home. It's a great place to visit. It's a great place to have fun. It's a great place to play music. My nephew has a band now. He's been having a band for a while. I'm gonna get a chance to play with my nephew band when I go back home. So I miss the music. I just miss the community. What's sad is that a lot of my family is not living there anymore after Katrina.
Yeah.
So most of them are living in Texas now.
Really?
Yeah. So when I go home, I have very little family to talk with because they're all living in Texas. So the thing now is just going out, and I'm like a tourist now. I'm like a tourist. So I know where to go, but a lot of places are closed. A lot of things are not there anymore. So it's still in the rebuilding stage of what I knew New Orleans to be. You know?
So is there any effort to try to get the Bay Area community and the Texas community of New Orleans musicians and friends together?
We are trying. We're trying. I mean, I'm going to Kentucky to play some music in June with some New Orleans folks in Kentucky. Some of them moved to Kentucky after Katrina, so now they have bands in Kentucky that plays New Orleans jazz, and this is straight ahead jazz. So we're doing some stuff in Kentucky. Texas, yes. Texas, a lot of people from New Orleans in Texas. So Texas has got a really foundation of New Orleans, and Texas don't like that because they like that Texas music.
Yeah.
So now they got some New Orleans.
Yeah, the
folks.
old thing, if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band. Right.
Yeah. So Texas don't like this. They know that New Orleans, because now they do second lines in Texas now. I was watching something, I was like, oh, Texas is getting a little, New Orleans is starting to build up in Texas, so which is really, which is good.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that Katrina has had such an impact on people's lives in so many ways and has torn apart so many things. But at the same time, it's brought your music to people who might not have ever heard it. You know, and certainly watching you all marching around there in Oakland and knowing that you're playing in San Francisco, it'll be interesting to see. I guess from a historical standpoint, music, how it intertwines with other kinds of music and what comes out of it. Because that's always been a thing with music, that as people spread out and they take their music with them, they create new forms.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what comes out.
In a lot of ways, that it is happening. Even in the rap, even in hip hop and R&B and everything, a lot of the producers that no longer live in New Orleans are now living all over. So when I listen to certain songs, like my daughter play a song, a rap or hip hop, I can hear the bounce in the music, and I can look and I go, oh, he's from New Orleans.
Yeah.
The producer's from New Orleans. I can hear different songs, like Beyonce just did a thing where it was from New Orleans, and what's his name? He did something that was from New Orleans. Everybody likes him. He's another rapper. He did some music from New Orleans. So you can hear that the influence is big now because of Katrina. Yeah. And so, yes, a lot of artists now are using New Orleans producers to help with the music. And it's influenced in everything. It's influenced the Bay Area. The Bay Area has influenced Texas. I'm hearing it all over the place. So it's
And pretty soon in Europe too.
yes, yes.
I mean, that's going to be exciting.
Yes.
I really that's going to be interesting to see how it's received in different areas.
And they have some bands that already go to Europe. A lot of brass bands that do go to Europe. Just there's going to be a different brass band than they normally hear, because what we're playing is different than what they're playing even in New Orleans. We're still playing brass music, but it's a San Francisco way of doing it, not a true New Orleans way, even though we're still New Orleans. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good.
So what's one of the differences in the San Francisco way versus the
less bounce.
less bounce? Okay.
Less bounce. New Orleans brass is more bounce. And even with my band, even though I have to use a different drummer to get the bounce I want with my band.
So I also wanted to ask you, how does it feel playing this music when you're not in New Orleans? I mean, your audience is not, your audience doesn't already know how to dance to it, is I guess what I'm really saying. So.
It's, you know, I played a wedding on Saturday. I played a wedding Saturday. And the only people that love the music is the bride and groom because they requested it, right?
Yeah.
So no one else really know.
Yeah.
You know, they loved it. They was dancing. Everyone else was kind of.
But they got introduced to it.
Yeah, they got introduced to it.
I think that's one thing that my daughter and I discovered recently is we were around some people that were just saying, you know, you got to move more to this music. You've got to move more, and I think that's the same kind of thing with the New Orleans jazz. You got to learn to do the bounce.
Yeah, you got to learn it, and it was cool because by the end of the set, people were dancing.
Good.
Yes. So yes, they were a little shocked that okay, this is what's happening, and they had a brass band at their wedding, and it was the bride and groom was loving it, and they had the umbrellas, and they were having a good time, and and then people were like watching them, and then towards the end, it was like, okay, everyone was getting into it. Everyone's getting into it.
Well, I hate to say it, but we've got to go now. I wanted to thank you very much for coming out and telling us all about jazz and what you're doing as a musician. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.